Here is my review of Gillingham High Street, starting at a train station, going along all the shops one side of the high street, then coming back during all of the shops along the other side of the high street. This junction outside of the station has recently been redone. The pavement used to be really narrow, but it isn't anymore, which is good. But this first part of the high street has a road running down the middle of it, and the pavements here are far too narrow. They can get really overcrowded. I really don't like this part of the high street. There's loads of yucky chewing gum on the pavement as well. And now to the first shop. This first set of shops is in a triangle formation between the high street and the railway, which means the shop on the corner is really small. It's so small, it's not really practical as a shop. And in between the railway and this small shop is one of Medway's typical, really safe lampposts, with all of its 240 volt wires exposed. Typical Medway Council. And now going along from a really small shop, the next shop is Stonewell Estate Agents. Oh well, that's not very interesting. Moving along to the next shop, and it's John Nichols Jewellery. Oh well, whatever. Next shop is an estate agents, and this shop are currently replacing their sign, and you can see the old Victorian sign underneath, which is quite interesting. Home and Colonial Limited. And now moving on to the next shop, which is another one of these cash for gold shops. There are so many of these cash for gold shops around Medway. I can't comment on any individual shop, but apparently quite a few of these shops offer really bad value for money for your gold. And now, in the shop window, I have a display of loads of heritage items, but none of these are for sale, are just here for display. Moving on to the next shop, which is a news agent. This one looks quite nice compared to some. Oh well, moving on. Next shop, Wimpy. And this particular franchise of Wimpy went bankrupt. One of the main reasons is because they have a step to get into the shop, so quite a few people with buggies decided to go to McDonald's instead because they couldn't get their buggies in the door. So oh well, they've gone bankrupt. Along to the next shop, Santander Bank. Oh well, not much interesting here. Next one, Carpet Remnant Centre. This shop has really pushy salesmen. When I was trying to buy a bed here, they just wouldn't leave me alone. They kept on pestering me. So therefore, in the end, I didn't buy my bed here. That's what happens when salesmen are too pushy. Now moving on to the next shop, which is Choice Bet, a betting shop. A lot of people around Gillingham don't actually have that much money, and they can come here and waste it all on betting. Really moral shop, this one. And now moving on to the next shop, which is H&T Pawnbrokers. Another one of these shops, another cash for gold shop. Oh dear, let's move on to the next shop, which is Pizza Plus Fried Chicken, which has really cheap pizzas. I recently found out why the pizzas are so cheap here. After eating a pizza here, the next day it came out in my poo. None of it had digested. They put so much filler into their pizzas, it just passes through without digesting. That explains why their pizzas are so amazingly cheap. And now moving on to the next shop, Photo Memories. And now moving on to the next shop, which obviously didn't make much money as it's now closed down. Oh dear. Now moving on to the next shop, which is Quicksilver, gambling shop, another place for people to waste their money. Typical, this really shows the sort of place Gillingham is. And now we're now reaching the end of a bit of high street. There's a road going down the middle, and now into the main part of the high street, which is pedestrians only. Now to the next shop, which used to be a co-op. As co-op took over Summerfields, they've now taken over the bigger Summerfield shop. So this shop here has now become a Nissa Extra, which is nowhere near as good as the co-op. And it's closed today. It's Bank Holiday, Queen Jubilee Bank Holiday today. Next shop is Superdrug. Not much to say about this shop. No, well, boring really. What's the next shop? Iceland. Don't really have much to say about this shop. Not that interesting, but it does have a 1970s Evans dumbwaiter in it. And now this is what the shop looks like on the inside. Rather just bog standard Iceland really. Now moving on to the next shop, which is Greg's. Don't have much to say about this shop either. Next shop is Specsavers, and the next shop is the Co-op Pharmacy, and the next shop is, oh no, another cash for gold shop. Yeah, another pawnbrokers. Oh dear, so many of these in Medway. I'm so sick of these. Oh dear. Now this part of High Street is a bit coming off with some more shops, and at this time in the morning it's quite cold, and all of the pigeons are really cold looking. They're all fluffed up. And here are some of the shops on this bit coming off of the high street. It's Fads, which has closed. William Hill, another betting shop for people waste their money. An old cinema, Green Street at back. Then there's a post office, sewing centre, closed down shop, Tiptoe Nails. None of these are very interesting really. And Profile Capital Limited, whatever that is. Next shop, F. Hines. They've recently replaced their shop front, and this new shop front is more boring than their old shop front. What's the point of that? Oh well, it's only a jewellery shop anyway, not very interesting. Next shop is the money shop. Oh no, not another another cash for gold shop. Oh, I'm so sick of these. Oh dear, more cash for gold. This is just irritating. Oh dear, what's the next shop? Boots. This is a nice shop. It's a nice 1950s shop with an old 1950s Evans dumbwaiter. This is Boots. It's closed today. Anyway, I said it's Queen's Diamond Jubilee Bank Holiday. Now moving on to the next shop, which is a charity shop. Next one, Oxfam charity shop. Yep, what's next? And the next shop is NatWest. Oh dear, just another bank. That's not very exciting. Oh dear, what's next? Next shop is Savers, another cheap shop. And the next shop is Phones for You. And now on to the next shop, which is Yem UK. Next shop didn't make any money, closed down. There's a lot of closed down shops in Gillingham. They often go bankrupt after not long after opening. Next is Warden Partners, estate agents. Well, not very interesting really. And the next shop is, oh, I don't like a shop, it's The Works. This shop sells really cheap and nasty books. The sort of place where people say, oh, you like trains, don't you? Why don't I get you a book about trains? And they go and get a book from The Works, which is really dumbed down and says nothing but the most basic information. Wikipedia is so much better. The books here are just so basic. Next shop is Fraser's, hair and beauty, a lot of this sort of shop in Gillingham. Oh well. What's next? Halifax, another bank. Nothing exciting about this shop. Now, what's the next one? Shoe Zone. No, not very interesting. What is next? Benson's, amusement centre. Another gambling shop where people waste their money. And next is HSBC, another bank. Boring. Next is Storm, which is flower shop or something. I'm not really sure what his shop is. Next is MCP Personal, whatever that is. Don't know what his shop does. Next shop is Tube Fashion, a rather small shop. It's quite Victorian looking on the outside. Next shop is Chef's Delight, cafe and restaurant. I've not actually eaten here, so I don't know what this place is like. Next shop is Dream Nails. I really don't get the point of people spending money just to change the way their fingernails look. I really don't get it. Oh well, what's next? Next shop is a Chinese health clinic. I can't say whether this shop is any good or not, but apparently some of these Chinese shops are not very good at sell stuff that don't work, and the people often call themselves doctors when they haven't actually been trained as doctors. And next, Best Linens. No guessing what this shop sells. Just various linen stuff. Next is Barclays, a bank. Boring. And here is where Canterbury Street cuts across the High Street. Now moving on to the next part of the High Street, where there's a church, and after a church is a set of shops. Looks 70s, but no interesting lift in here. Shops are absolutely beds. Then there's a news agents. Yeah, that's not very interesting. Then next is cash generators, which I don't like cash generators. They sell second-hand electrical items, but they are not good value for money compared with eBay. They're quite overpriced, really. And they also do cash for gold. No, not another cash for gold shop. Next is Tai Wun Min, whatever that is, restaurant of some sorts. Next up is a news agents, which sells quite a good selection of different chocolates. I quite like it. Next is Crazy Reels, yet another shop to waste your money on gambling. Next is a health food shop. And after this is Peacock's, a clothes shop that doesn't make much money. Next is Slicks, another hair salon shop or whatever it is. Next is Pizza Chicken Bab Hot for You. This shop has recently closed, but it says it's opening soon. But recently there were some people outside the shop protesting, claiming that the people in the shop were doing inappropriate behaviour. Next up is Baraf Spices, Continental Foods, which is closed at this time of day as well. Yeah, what's next? Two Tiny Feet. Next is a virtual shop, and this I used to call the pigeon poo shop, as it used to be really manky with loads of pigeon poo, but it's been cleaned up a bit now. Oh well, not very interesting. Next is Mario, Gentlemen's Hairdressers. What's next? Oh no, I hate shops like this. The Claim Shop. More places wanting you to sue people. I don't believe in suing, as many small museums are too afraid to open in case they get sued. I think a suing thing is wrong. Anyway, next up, going out of the main part of the High Street and into the road, and the next shop is a tanning shop. The next shop along is the library, and now going back along the other side. Next is a rather weird looking shop. Next is Pepe's Tea Room. Then this shop, a restaurant. Next up is 4 Continental Stores. Next up is a general store. This shop is really cramped inside. The aisles are so small. Next up is Designer Crew, whatever it is. Then Century Lettings, another estate agents. And yet another kebab shop. There's so many of these about in Medway. And There is Prestige Laundrette, which is a really nice old-fashioned looking laundry. Next up, another news agent. Is there really enough trade for all? But this one looks a bit better than some of them. And now going back down into the high street again. And the next shop is ADS. No idea what this shop does. Next is TGF Pizza, another pizza shop, but this one actually looks quite a bit better on the outside than some, but I haven't actually tried the food there, so I don't know, but the shop front looks quite good. Next up, rugs and bedding. Next up, oh no, bikes. The staff here are really unfriendly. I don't like his shop. Next up used to be Tipping Point, the climate change protesting shop. It's now a charity shop, and you can also on this shop see the old Victorian sign. Next shop is Home Sweet Home. Oh no, next shop is Bare Bones. One time I took my computer in this shop because I wanted some more USB ports added and a new graphics card. I told them specifically not to alter the operating system because I can do all of the software side of computers myself. The operating system was just how I liked it. I didn't want it altered, but the people there just mucked about with it, installed software I didn't want, and just totally mucked about with the operating system. I'm not happy with this shop. Next up is Cafe Jaya, weird name. Next is A.W. Matthews. Next up is the Smelly Pet Shop. This shop recently went bankrupt but has reopened. The shop smells quite bad though. Next up is a sort of a shopping centre, whether you'd call it a shopping centre, I'm not really sure what it is, it's just horrible in here. Here's Hair Pavilion, one shop, another hair shop. This centre's really manky, I don't like this place, it's horrible, dingy. And here's another shop, whether this is, don't know what that shop is. Then this shop here used to be called Gateways a long time ago, then it changed to Summerfields, and now it's been taken over by the Co-op. And also in this manky shopping centre is Oasis Cafe, and there's some people that worked in this cafe were smoking out in this shopping centre, which is actually breaking the law. And here's a ramp going down to the car park. There's another shop there, but it's closed, and that goes down to the car park. Next up, coming out of the shopping centre, is In Town Bakery, which has a really old style looking automatic door. Next up is Nails Palace, another nail shop. Oh dear, what's next? Next up is Time Out, a recently refurbished cafe which looks quite nice on the inside. Next, Gilbert Horps, whether that is. Next is Eel Pie Island Cafe. Don't really fancy eel pie, sounds a bit weird really. Oh well, what's next? Tattoo Medway. Oh dear, tattoo shop. This really shows the sort of place Gillingham is. Next up, Community Store, which is now closed. Bill Stickers will be prosecuted, whoever he is. Next up is the Edge, sort of pub restaurant thing. And now it is in Canterbury Street, cuts across the high street. Now going back along the next part of the high street. Next shop is Betfred, another gambling shop for people to waste their money. Next is Chatty Shop, Scope. Next shop is Tips Key Shop. And next one up is Miss Grace, which are selling loads of tat for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. Next is Look Estate Agents. Next up is Man Country Ride. Next up, Cancer Research, Charity Shop, and I don't know what his bag's doing out, so I don't know if that's rubbish or donations for the shop. Next up, Baker's Oven and Boots Opticians, which used to be DNA Opticians. Next shop along is Subway. Card Factory. Next, Lloyd's TSB. Boring, another bank. Next is Thompson First Choice Holidays. Next is 97p Price Busters, which has now closed down due to competition from the 99p shop. This shop looks quite grotty on the inside. Yeah, oh dear, there's a hole in the floor up there. And oh dear, I've also had a smashed window. Well, that's typical of Gillingham, lots of chavs about. Next is J.C. Rook & Sons Butchers. Then is J.A.J. Shoes Limited. Next up is New Look, which used to be Littlewoods. They've refurbished it quite a lot. Littlewoods was quite retro style, but now modern. Next is Paddy Power, another place to waste your money on gambling. And next up is 99p Stores, the old Woolworths. It still has that old Woolworths feel inside. I really like this old retro style shop. Next shop is a survey centre. Next up, it used to be 2 shops, is now 1 shop. WH Smith's, the shop on the left, used to be Clark's, but that closed. Next up, boring, another bank nationwide. Not interesting. Next is British Heart Foundation charity shop. Next is Cooperative Travel, then Bon Marsh. Oh no, another shop with Queen's Diamond Jubilee tat. Oh dear. Next up used to be the really nice Co-op department store, but it's now been changed into 2 shops. Wilkinson's downstairs, Sports Direct upstairs. This shop used to be really nice, old-fashioned when it was Co-op department store, but it's not so much now as Wilkinson's. Is now boring. I really like Co-op department store. I really miss it. It was far better. And the shop is quite an unusual half-floor arrangement, which is quite unusual. And this used to be an old Pickering's, but they've replaced it with a stupid generic. And upstairs is Sports Direct, which now looks like this, very cleaned up and modern looking compared to the nice old-fashioned look of Co-op department store. Now along to the next shop, Hans, whatever Hans is. Then Barbecue Express, another food shop. Then Perfect Fried Chicken, yet another food shop. Is there really enough trade for all of these shops? Next is the Greengrocers, which often sells not very good food. Next up is McDonald's. Lots of people say they don't like McDonald's for various reasons, but I actually like them. I think their food's really good for the cheap price it's at, and also it can be really useful when all the other shops are shut. Next up is a news agents, yet another one. Okay, and what's next? A pub. Well, it looks quite nice in this picture, but it's not really. Next up is Breeze Cafe. Breeze Cafe, yet another cafe. Next up is, I can't pronounce that. Next up is Nab Kelly, whoever it is. Next up is Aussie Grill and Fish Bar. I went in here to get a burger once. Staff are now really rude. And next is a pub. And now back along to the train station again. Bank machine welcomes you to Gillingham. Wow, that's a very friendly bank machine. That's a bit strange. And while doing this movie, here are some burps I did.